Let's now head to the Pacific Ocean for our next regional trade block of note. What? To the ocean? Yes, the Pacific Ocean for APEC, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. Now, APEC was, like some of the others we've talked about, started to be talked about in the mid-1980s and officially formed up in 1989, really in response to the growing interdependence of a lot of the hottest, biggest economies on the planet Earth. And that, of course, I'm thinking of the United States on one side of the Pacific and Japan and China on the other side. So where a lot of the action was, it was this natural tendency that, hey, our economies are already tied together in lots of different ways of trade and other things, so we should do more together. It also rose in response to the increasing success of a lot of the other trade blocs of that era, which were cropping up. I'm thinking specifically of the EU, which was hustling and bustling. NAFTA got underway. Mercosur was happening. And all these places were being successful in making money. So this APEC became kind of a natural crossing of the Pacific to bring together some of the major players on planet Earth. Now, there are 21 member economies in APEC. Member economies is the phrase you use, not member states, for reasons I'll get to in just a minute. And their commonality is that they're on the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean laps the shores of all these countries. That's the commonality. And there are some big titans in here. I've already named a few. The United States, China, Japan, Russia, Australia, Indonesia, Canada, South Korea, Mexico. I mean, those are all top 25 economies all in this single block. But also Brunei, Chile, New Zealand, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Papua New Guinea, Vietnam, Peru, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. That sounds tricky. Yes, that's why we call the APEC members member economies and not member states, because of course Taiwan nor Hong Kong are sovereign states. And this organization is actually quite unique in the world because it's the only official country club or world organization where China and Taiwan are in it at the same time, because China has agreed to that. They said, yes, we'll allow Taiwan to become a member of this group as long as everybody recognizes that they're not a sovereign state. And everybody said, yeah, that's cool. We'll call ourselves member economies. APEC is unique for a lot more important ways than that little trivial fact, though. It is, like the other trade blocs we're talking about, based on economic stuff, on trade. Yes, they talk about lowering trade barriers and tariffs. That's no big surprise. But I'm not even sure that's their real focus. And in fact, they have 3 pillars of the APEC Constitution, if you will. Pillar 1 is trade and investment liberalization. Surprise, surprise, that's free trade. Okay, that we got. Number 2 pillar is business facilitation, and that's kind of unique. We haven't mentioned that one with any of these economic entities yet. Number 3 is economic and technical cooperation, and now we're getting on very new ground here. None of the other trade blocs we're going to talk about have a specific outline focus for what we're talking about here is businesses. We're going to help businesses work together, not just sell each other shit, to work together. And the economic and technical cooperation is we want to encourage technical and innovative sharing between our countries. Whoa, that's hot, that's heavy, that's kind of new, and I think it is the thing to really remember about APEC. Sharing of innovation, technology, and business, not simply just selling more crap to each other. It is much more technical business focused than any of the other trade blocs we're going to talk about. Yes, they do the free trade, lower tariff stuff. But quite frankly, with 21 member economies, you're not going to agree to that much trade-wise. Think about this whenever you see these international organizations. The more members you have in them, the less you're going to agree to. That's just life. So NAFTA has 3 members. They pretty much agreed to everything, all right? Pretty much. But when you get 21 people at a table, what the hell are they going to agree on? Not much. And the UN is the worst case scenario. When you get 193 people around the table, what are they going to agree to? Nothing. So trade happens in APEC, but not as much. It's not all inclusive as, say, NAFTA or even Mercosur or the EU. They do it, but that's that technical business focus that I really want you to remember. APEC is a hot place. It's a hot entity because the Pacific itself is a hot region on planet Earth, economically speaking. This APEC entity has 40% of the world's population. That's significant on its own. Approximately 55% of the world's GDP is in these 21 member states, and about 44%, pretty much it's half of world trade, occurs between these member economies of APEC. That's significant. Half of world trade happens in this one trade block. Booyah! And it's going to increase in your lifetime, my friends. I call this the Pacific Century, quite frankly. And the Pacific Ocean is really the interstate highway of 21st century trade. It is the highway with the most lanes and the fastest speed limit. And it is just getting warmed up. The 21st century has just started. Now, for 1 second more on that, why am I so excited about this interstate highway system of the Pacific Ocean? Because for the last 500 years, the Atlantic Ocean has been the kind of center of world trade. You had the European powers, which ran and controlled the whole world economy and colonized the whole planet. And then you had the rise of the United States. And so you had these very rich entities. And think about this, the richest entities on planet Earth have, for most of the last 100, 200, 500 years, have been the Europeans and the Americans. So that's where most of the trade has occurred across the Atlantic. That's been the real hub, the center of economic activity. And that, my friends, is changing. In fact, it already has changed. This is the Pacific Century. That is where the action is. It's where it's going to increasingly be for the rest of your lives as well. So this APEC is really taking advantage of this critical mass of action that's really going on. And it's really one to watch because not only is it hot now, it's going to be hotter in the future. Everybody wants into it. There's only 21 member economies right now. There actually are a handful of other countries with Pacific coastline that would like in, that have asked to get in. And there's some countries that aren't even on the Pacific who want in. India and Mongolia, I think Pakistan have asked to get into APEC. Everybody's excited about the idea that, hey, that's a grouping where they share technical innovation and business stuff and stuff's been hybridized and crossing over. Who doesn't want to be part of innovative action? So APEC is an interesting one to watch for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is it's one of the funniest international organizations to watch because the heads of state actually get together once a year for a big APEC meeting, and it's the true heads of state. It's not that they send somebody in their place. It's the prime ministers and presidents who go to the APEC meeting, and they have this tradition where they all adopt the custom traditional garb clothes of the host country, and they all pose for a really ultra goofy picture, some of which you can see right here. So as more into business and technological innovation sharing across this region, and it's a region that has some of the hottest world innovative centers in it already. Think US, think China, think Japan, think South Korea, think Taiwan, Singapore. I mean, that's where the coolest, hottest new inventions and stuff is coming from. This trade bloc is really set to become the Pacific Ring of Fire, the one true ring of technical innovation and trade on planet Earth. APEC may soon be at the apex, and that, my friends, is why it's important to know your APEC.